Alrighty, hi everyone, how's it going?
Bun. I think I did it wrong anyway. They messed me up on Scrubs.
It's true, we just watched the episode of Scrubs where they messed up the Sports Center jingle. Also, getting into this right away with a side tangent, Scrubs is incredibly good at being sad and incredibly bad at being funny.
We decided that, like, it's good as a drama, the character writing is even good, but, like, as a comedy, it fucking sucks.
Yeah, like, the most it's gotten out of us in, like, 7 seasons is, like, a...
And, like I laugh at everything!
Yeah, we're not very picky when it comes to comedy.
I laugh at farts! I guffaw at farts! And all that Scrubs gets out of me is a...
Didn't mean for this to immediately turn into a Scrubs rant.
sorry.
No, it's fine. I brought it up. I just... Hi, everyone. We're here. Welcome to the A-tier recap.
UFO 50.
The game that we're all here to watch a video for. I don't know if y'all care about my Scrubs opinions. But we're here.
Bread would care.
We're like halfway through week 4 now when we're recording this. So we will go back and basically be watching all of week 3 this week. As a heads up, it's most likely going to be a stream probably on Saturday afternoon for B tier and then Sunday for C tier like we did this week. And I have 2 bingo matches to play in between then and also potentially a GDQ submission to record and stuff. So we'll be pretty busy with bingo stuff for the next couple of days. But before we get into all that, let's recap all the bingo that's already happened. So here is the stats as of halfway through week 4. Shoutouts to Bug Hunter for reclaiming the top spot with 39 goals logged with the VOD. Rail Heist making the way up the board. Shoutouts to 20 of 35 Rail Heist goals being completed by A tier. If y'all are curious, actually, we do have this sorting too, where we actually get to see that Rail Heist is now the strongest A tier game, followed by Tactics and Rakshasa, and then Magic Garden, Night Manor, Hyper Contender, Cyber Owls, Valbrave, Sunny and Delivery, Camp 1, Bug Hunter, all super fast games. So, shoutouts to Frank for pulling these stats, and yeah. So getting into some of the games that were played to build up those stats. Game 1 between Uncle Slam and Yvonne. As a friendly reminder for everyone who's here, who hasn't been tuning in to week 3 or season 3 action yet, all A-tier games are 2 games back to back. It's not like a best of 3 or anything, so if they go 1-1, they just go 1-1 and split the series or whatever. But since A-tier was so fast in Season 2, we now get double the A-tier action for Season 3. Which, with the opening portion of this game, you will see both players pretty much just doing their own thing for a bit. But one of the nice things about bingo matches where you're just picking goals that your opponent isn't, and you just kind of get to chill and do the goals, is you get to see how fast these goals actually are and how efficient A-tier players are at identifying those and picking them right away. So here for Yvonne, we see an immediate dive to purchase just enough money for the God Blood and get that goal in about 2 minutes. Basically, as Slam finishes the Tactics and starts Avenger, once again, a pretty common strategy you'll see in A-tier is everyone has their timings down exceptionally well for how long something actually takes. And Slam immediately going into one of his comfort games, getting all the way up to the point where Keeney skip happens, and then marking it and wasting Yvonne's time a little bit. And definitely did there, so it was a good hold. And you can already see within the first couple of minutes of this game, even just fast forwarding a little bit more. YouTube did not like it when I clicked farther into that video, I guess. We get some sped up facial reactions of Quibble Race again, which is everyone's favorite. And 3-2 in the first 11 minutes of the game, as both players are kind of just scatter-shotting around the board and picking up spaces. And then tied 4-4, and then eventually 5-5. We do get our first head-to-head of the match, where Uncle Slam and Yvonne are both racing to collect 3 keys. Velgress is a pretty tough game to do when you're doing under pressure, and at this point in the match, I think both players have a feeling that Velgress is being raced, just because a lot of the quickest goals on the board have already been marked off. And Velgress without pressure is hard, but Velgress when like you have a feeling that you're racing an opponent is even harder. So Slam able to grab the 3 keys, but then not grab the gold disc because of the poor level generation, and sets up an immediate head-to-head and overbold right after that. Again, with the way the board state is laid out, I think it's pretty fair to give some time to overbold with the center square gold disc and complete a wave of 1,000 stakes without using bombs, both on the board. Double synergy for spaces is obviously really good to go for when you can, but sometimes, and like I'm guilty of this myself too, sometimes it can be hard to see that double synergy sometimes just makes a goal harder than it maybe would have been if you just do one and then the other back to back, basically. And obviously along the way to an overbold gold disc, you can just do an extra round of 1,000 plus without using bombs, but that's easier said than done, because overbold is another game where the bingo pressure definitely starts to rack up pretty fast. And, during my time of recapping that, Slam was already blasting through Warp Tank and is already in healing sector. I'm happy to see Warp Tank done quickly, so I wanted to show off that goal, because it can be very fast, and especially when you know where to go, it is very fast. So Slam is able to kind of use this time that Yvonne is stuck in overbold to clean up the rest of the quick spaces that are on the board. Eventually we see the pivot out of overbold to get another fast goal, which is just beating all the World 2 levels in Mortal 1, as well as potentially trying to clean up the gifts and then start going for longer spaces on Slam's side. The next head-to-head that we have, after a little bit of swapping in and out of games here, not trying to skip over this entire portion of the match, but during this stretch of the game we did see players kind of settle into some of the longer goals that were on this card. Both players trying to get gifts and close it out. Slam trying to synergize that with the Campanella 2 very hard, which even experienced players can sometimes have trouble with Camp 2, because Camp 2 is just a really hard game. I think no matter how comfortable you are in Camp 2, there's always an element of fear that you're just going to lose everything there. And at this point in the match, if you're Yvonne down 10-5, you have blocked pretty much the most relevant bingos and are working to block the other one there. Try to figure out if you have enough time for gifts. This ends up being a pretty close gift race from what I remember. And unfortunately for Slam, dies in More Woods, I believe before getting the friendship bracelet and not getting the gift. Which allows Yvonne to start coming back here with a quick revival into a quick 2 keys for the gift here. So next with the head-to-heads, we do have a pretty neck and neck from start to finish race through Mini and Max. This Mini and Max square theoretically pushes Slam's last bingo in the final column, while Yvonne obviously wants this to be able to block, and getting a head-to-head snipe is a great way to get back into these games even when you are a little behind. Sorry, I'm just also watching this goal because I briefly kind of know where to go, but haven't actually seen this goal done quite yet, so. And unfortunately, Yvonne going all the way up to the top before getting the glove basically means that Slam has enough time to get the strong drink and go through the rail high section to drop off for the spider there. And now with about an hour left in this match and only needing 2 more spaces, Slam could either push for the bingo with an Avianos gold disc and a couple of difficult cherries, or use this time to clean up the rest of the game. And then, as you can imagine, Slam is able to get the 30k in Rakshasa. We do get to see the Open Tomb boss Mortal 1 synergy, but unfortunately for Slam, Yvonne was able to snipe that and come back 12-9. And we do get to see a head-to-head in Camp 2 as the final race of this match, where both players are racing for the very hard. And theoretically, this is exactly what Yvonne would need to get back into the game, is to beat Slam in a race here, beat Slam in a race for likely an overbold cherry. And then what else would you get on this card at that point? Kick Club. Clover Rate. Oh, Velgris is your other one. Okay. So, theoretically possible if Yvonne is able to bring this back. But as you can see by the score, it was very close, but Slam was eventually able to... I forget exactly when this happens. Oh, it's after Yvonne dies and pivots. So at that point, Slam is able to just clean up with 6 items, grabbing the friendship bracelet, and then winning 13-9. So a very good game by both players once again. I feel like every single A-tier game has had something exciting to watch. Oops. I just realized I didn't actually say I went live for the recap in the bingo chat.
Oh.
So, sorry for those coming in late for Slam Yvonne, but we are on to Game 2 here. Game 1 was very fun to watch, and Game 2 was equally as fun. So, similar to Game 1, both players basically just opt for their own separate fast goals, and within the first 4 minutes it ends up being a 2-1 game. Magic Garden, Night Manor, Mooncat, and Hyper Contender are all top tier bingo games, and all of these goals are incredibly fast, as you can see. It definitely was you. I laughed at that a lot. How's it going? Good to see you.
Oh my god, yeah, I laughed so hard at that too.
I'm also glad that the first card had Global Race, because face cam Global Race is apparently my favorite thing in the world. I didn't realize how peak actually having face cam on is for Global Race specifically. It's good for other games too, but Global Race reactions have been top tier this season. Struggling to look busy? That's very fair. So, a couple of minutes into this match, we'll fast forward a little bit farther here because both players are kind of just sticking out into their own things. Both players are doing a really good job again of identifying the quick goals that are on the card, and after a quick dip out of... Oh. I have a race starting at 16 minutes on the timer, but the timer was paused for a sec. Okay, there we go. So 4-3, Uncle Slam. We have a head-to-head in Rakshasa with a goal that's actually been slightly rewarded since this match happened. In this specific instance of this goal, you're supposed to score 2,000 points with each of the 3 weapon types in one run. And this ends up actually being a little bit of an issue here where watching it back, Yvonne was a little bit short on one of the weapon types, even though they technically had enough points like overall and had switched all the weapons. And because of that, it ended up causing where there was like a little bit of confusion on that goal getting marked, I believe, actually, now that I remember. And basically because of that original mismark and then unmarking it, I believe Slam got into Rakshasa a little bit early, or a little bit later than Yvonne did, and the space ended up being rewarded to Slam, as well as the space that Slam was working on that caused the pivot. Yeah, I just needed to sort of explain it since it was a very good head-to-head that ended in a way that was maybe confusing at 4x speed. And for what it's worth, even with that kind of devastating double mark and also progress and stuff, Yvonne did a really good job of coming back into this game and seeing the positive synergies and stuff that were on the board. Being able to pair Porgy with Metroidvania and attempt to defeat a boss while you're just collecting power-ups and stuff is generally pretty good. And then Slam is also identifying a game that has multiple goals, but gonna be honest, Rock On doesn't really have goals that synergize with each other like at all. Because like every goal takes place in a different level, and all of the levels kind of take a while to do, so you're never like doing multiple Rock On goals at the same time unless you have Revolutionary on the board, I guess. Honestly, it happens. Construction can be pretty loud and annoying. We've been around constant construction for like at least the past like 6 years we've lived here, and construction's happened before that, but
Not like this.
yeah, we had the house next to us, the mega apartment complex across the alley, and now the mega apartment complex across the street all get like torn down and reconstructed within the past like few years, so definitely understand construction is very fucking annoying.
We keep blocking our parking now.
Yeah, it's a new fun development where they already had half the block blocked off.
They're already taking up our parking, but now they're blocking it with oversized loads of lumber.
Yep.
That was fun to say, actually.
Love you. So Slam with a hold into a double mark there is now up 8-4 and is pushing a bunch of different bingo lines and Honestly, if you're Yvonne at this point, you kind of just have to try to block what you can and go from there. A raid. Meow to y'all. Hi Vanilla, how's it going? Welcome in, everyone. I'm CEO. We're here to recap the A-tier action for week 3. And it's been already pretty fun. I ended up watching a lot of these matches today, and they're all really good, so I guess to the surprise of no one. How was the game? Welcome in, everyone. We do these weekly recaps, which have ended up actually being like 3 streams a week, basically, where we do an A-tier stream, a B-tier stream, and a C-tier stream, and basically just watch back the matches at high speed and try to flip through to the highlights. Like, I have notes for all the games and stuff, but honestly it just ends up kind of ending up being a high-speed watch party through a lot of good bingo action as we're trying to recap like 30 plus games a week or however many it is. So now up 9-4 and threatening 1, 2, 3 different bingo lines. Slam is basically good to do whatever he wants to do on this card. We get to see a rare rock on for 2 bosses mark, which is pretty fun. This card is not like amazing for 2 bosses, especially if you don't particularly want to play Hotfoot. And since Slam had already beaten one of the rock on levels to block a bingo potential, might as well beat the really easy rock on level and get that credit too. So eventually Yvonne is able to beat a boss in Porgy, which blocks off one of the bingo threats, and is eventually able to finish out Metroidvania to block the top row. But at this point it's pretty tough to come back, especially when the score reaches 11-7. And some of these rail heist goals this season can sometimes be a little long, but if you know what you're doing, they're generally pretty fast. We mentioned with the stats that we analyzed at the start of the stream that rail heist has shot up the rankings of stuff that's been completed this season, and almost all of it is because A-tier is blasting through every rail heist goal, so at least as a viewer, if you need to learn your rail heist routes for stuff, A-tier has been the place to learn. The goal that Slam's going for, by the way, being the one where you have to escape with a money crate, which in some of these levels ends up actually being pretty difficult. Like this one, you have to intentionally grab the crate from the underside like that, and then pass a turn, and then hurry up, kill this guy, punch this, and make sure that you escape with just enough time left on the timer to be able to actually clean it up. And then with that wrapped up, Slam is able to pick up the 13-7 win in just over an hour. Once again, a very fast pace from both players and a really good game by both. And even with the unfortunate mismarked thing, it still ended up being a really good game. Alright, so next up is one of my contenders for Game of the Week, personally. Flesh versus Mora Game 1 was super fun, as you can see by the board, where Mora won with a 13-12 blackout win. There was a lot of fun stuff that happened in this game, and for those that haven't seen this match yet, we're basically going to watch this one like all the way through, pretty much. both Flesh and Mora are incredibly strong players and obviously very good at bingo, and we got to see some very fun stuff that I don't think we've actually gotten to see in regular league play, at least. So starting off, we have a really fun head-to-head race in Magic Garden Overgrow, where Flesh grabs it in about a minute and a half, causing Mora to pivot into Golf Area, which we will see quite a lot of on Mora's side of the screen this match. There's pretty good synergy with Obtain the Breaks and show 20% is synergy on the board. And you'll also notice, just kind of offhand, that there is Gold Disc 4 games on this card, and not a ton of like great games for those gold discs. Like just casually looking at the board, going in order, you can gold disc Rail Heist, you can gold disc Alphazar's Hat, you can gold disc Planet Zoldath. I think you could actually gold disc Warp Tank. I guess you would need extra synergy for that, but by the way, casually while I was talking during that, Mora was able to show 20% completion in Golf Area in under like 4 minutes. And then pivot to a pretty strong center square of Party House VIPs only. This Party House seed ends up being a little difficult because the main money generation is Gamblers, which obviously necessitates a pretty trouble mitigation heavy strat. And sometimes you just end up with a strat like that where it just ends up pulling 3 trouble right away. Yeah, I agree, Hugh. I mentioned it a lot in week 1 and 2, but I think that's my favorite change this season, is quite frankly all of the games that I am good at in UFO 50 are all those like slightly longer games that we actually get to show off on more cards this season. I am hoping and praying for a card that allows me to play like all the way through to the Warp Tank gift at least. Theoretically, a Warp Tank Gold is like viable for bingo, but it would take like a really shitty card, even as a Warp Tank wanting to make it happen fan. So 10 minutes into the match, it's a 3-3 tie, as both players are at this point kind of, I guess, going into their corners of the cards and figuring out what they want to do here. Both players are doing a really good job of starting to push their own bingo lines, getting good synergy, getting good general progress while also working on fast goals. Having played against and with both these players, they're both really good at identifying fast stuff on the board and pretty aggressively going after it and getting it. We again see a spider reward quest, and that does make a little bit of progress towards the mini and max very hard, but obviously doesn't make sense to do that right now. So instead we get another head-to-head, this time in Rakshasa. Flesh immediately quits out after destroying 4 net bugs, but interestingly enough, Mora does not quit out, likely just to get the gift, which she does. Ends up quitting out before theoretically getting the second stage synergy to instead play Lords of Disconia, which Mora was the world record for, or holder for, at least at one point. I guess I don't know if she still is, but even as the world record holder, Lords of Disconia is a lot of RNG, and sometimes you just get weird layouts and have to keep resetting until you get one that actually lets you push stuff into water. True, Mora is also rocking the bathrobe on webcam. I remember, wasn't this at like 3 a.m. Pacific, so it was definitely like prime time for where they were streaming, but not for the Pacific coast. But anyway, Flesh seeing the potential bingo lines theoretically forming if that Campanella Trilogy square were to get marked, makes a good defensive play to start going for that now and getting progress in Camp 2. and Mora, seeing Flesh's bingo starting to form, is going to start working through Valbrace to level up at the thrones and beat the Phantom Knight at the end of floor 2. For the very hards on this board, they are theoretically pretty fast if you know where to go. And Valbrace is like prime contender for if you know where to go. It's actually a pretty fast game. And if you don't, you'll end up spending like hours in here getting lost and probably going in circles because everything kind of looks the same sometimes. Yeah, I mean, it definitely ended up working out for sure. We did get Slim to 6 sync. So Flesh sees the additional good synergy here with Alphazar's Hat clearing stage 3, and then along the way clearing stages 1 and 2 without upgrades. Stage 1 and 2 are both very straightforward without upgrades anyway, and then obviously that will push into a stage 3 clear pretty well. And meanwhile Mora is working her way through Warp Tank. Slim Tank, for those that don't know, is a level select code that also disables checkpoints. So sometimes, depending on how far into these levels you are, it can almost be worth it to just actually play Warp Tank and get access to checkpoints and stuff. For this specific set of levels, I wouldn't recommend it because you don't get access to Orb or Source Sector until basically doing the very hard, but depending on what levels you get, it can actually sometimes be worth it. You thought it was an abacus? No, we do have players that are rocking abacus. Abaci? I don't know what the plural of abacus is. Abacuses doesn't sound right, so it's probably abaci, but I've never said that before.
Abaci sounded worse. I do not like abaci.
I mean...
I'm just letting you know.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's wrong, I just didn't care for it.
Also, hi Fireline, how's it going? So we do have Mora hopping back into Disconia to try to get a little bit better luck on pieces, does this time. And Flesh is now up 7-6 and is likely going to be staying in for the Alphazar's Hat gold disc. Like I previewed at the top of this match. This is a uniquely not great card for gold discs, where pretty much none of the like usual contenders for gold discs are on the card, which definitely forced players to get a little creative with it. So for instance, we're seeing Flesh stay through all the way through stage 4 to actually get the Alphazar's Hat gold disc, and we also see Mora currently working on a Planet Zoldath gold disc, and definitely a theoretically fast gold disc, but one that I'm sure most bingo players would not go for if they didn't have to. Yeah, I mean, a magnetic go board is essentially the same thing as an abacus, I guess, so true. Where's the next part of this match that I should be skipping to? Okay, so we do end up getting the Alphazar's Hat gold disc. And making some pretty good progress in this Planet Zoldath seed to be able to get the trade piece, and defeat a boss in 6 games, ends up making it 7-7. I think more finally realizing the Planet Zoldath is sometimes a mean bingo game. Just switches over to the Mini and Max very hard, while we're going to see Flesh play through as much Campanella 3 as he can to get the Campanella Trilogy space, and theoretically turn that into a gold disc, which ends up being a pretty interesting Camp 1 versus Camp 3 race. Flesh does have much farther progress at this point, so it's not like a ton of a race here, especially since Flesh is able to finish up with Wrapup here. But theoretically could have set up a kind of interesting scenario where both players were racing Campanella Trilogy and ended up being in different games of the Campanella Trilogy to do it. So Mora back into Valbrace to give the second floor a shot. Unfortunately, in Valbrace, even when you know where to go, sometimes actually getting the second shot can be a little difficult. Also, I'm not gonna lie, I didn't see Mooncat on the card at all, so there's at least one good gold target on this card. But then after that, you are hoping for the best. So Flesh able to get some good synergy with Mooncat progress into a couple of general goals. Is able to jump out 10 to 8 while Mora is working her way through Valbrace. And at the 57-minute mark, Mora hops into Rakshasa and starts a direct head-to-head in Rakshasa where she needs to beat the second stage. Also was able to get that Party House seed pretty quickly in that little time skip, it looks like. And already has pretty good progress in Mini and Max banked from just kind of dipping into it throughout the game. Not gonna lie, I also just saw the second Warp Tank space on this card, and given how bad this card is at getting its like final gold discs, that might be worth it. Because like obviously Magic Garden and Mooncat are on this card for 2 quick ones, but then after that you're kind of gold discing kind of awkward games to gold disc. But kudos to Flesh, by the way, for having 3 gold discs at this point, because I think he still theoretically has, well, I guess he probably has Magic Garden and Cat and Space Invader. Anyway, pretty scary head-to-head here, where Mora does end up dying not once but twice in the Stage 2 boss, and being forced to use the regular weapon while Flesh is just getting to the Stage 2 boss. Gets sniped on that and is able to hop into Warp Tank of his own. Unfortunately for him, Shock Sector, Soft, and Riot are all kind of like longer and a bit more annoying levels of Warp Tank. So ends up pivoting out of that after a couple of quick deaths to the start of Shock Sector, while Mora is sticking through for a Rakshasa gold disc, because again the second or the first and second golds on this card are pretty straightforward, but the third and fourth ones are going to force you to get a little creative here, I think. But unfortunately, Mora does die and not recover, and is going to be trying to work through the other Warp Tank levels on the card, while Flesh is using the resource guide to figure out where to go for 350 shinies and Mini and Max. After Mora quits out of that, ends up hopping back into Golf Area to start to get some extra Holy Tea pieces and some extra upgrades to be able to finish the game. With her 20% earlier in the game, it's not really that much extra like work past that point to be able to at least attempt a gold disc out of it. Grabbing some green buddies along the way to get extra strokes in the final fight. Was able to reach the water roller with 3 strokes left. And meanwhile, during this time, by the way, Flush has been doing a really good job of running around Mini and Max and getting very close to actually sniping this Mini and Max goal. While Moore has been doing a really good job with the Golf Area Gold Disc, it does still kind of take a while. And this allows Flush to grab a full 200 shinies in the meantime. Yeah, I think Campanella 1 Gold Disc is kind of this season's like must-know game. There's a couple of times throughout a season where it definitely feels like you like absolutely need to know a route, and with Campanella Trilogy being one of the few named generals this season, and Campanella also having a very hard where you just need to Gold Disc it anyway, it's super helpful to be able to do that. So Mora in the final fight of Golf Area now needs to stall out the final hits, gets a recovery. Meanwhile, Flesh is at about 220 shinies. Mora gets bailed out, and then on the final stroke is able to get the Golf Area Gold Disc. I believe, to my knowledge, that's the first time Golf Area has been Gold Disced in a regular bingo match. I think it happened a couple of times in the Spicy season, but during like an official league match, I'm pretty sure that's the first time it's already ever been gotten, so... Yeah, I watched that back earlier and I was like, yeah, I feel like this is a game that we're kind of just watching all of. Also, shoutouts to Flesh for having 2 of my early games of the week, because he was also a part of a game against Gloves earlier this season that was super hype. Obviously, a very good player. I did want to point that out because it's always pretty fun. So now Mora is up 11 to 10. Flesh has made some pretty good progress on 350 shinies, but during the time it's taken to get 350 shinies, shoutouts to Mora almost busting out the exec command there. So at this point, Flesh is cleaning up 350 shinies, while Mora is starting to go for gold discs. I guess I also didn't see Barbudo on this card. Either way, because there are 4 gold discs that are required, one of the gold discs was going to have to be weird. And during the time that Flesh has taken to get 350 shinies, Mora is able to grab Golf Area, Magic Garden, Barbuda, and I'm actually curious if Mora's 4th is Mooncat, because she notoriously didn't know that game until recently. The exec command would be to RNG manip Barbuda. I see. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't know that was a thing, so cool and good to know. Also, hi. I liked you baiting chat by opening Mooncat and doing the first dive and then just being like, nah, I'm gonna do Hyper Contender instead. So during this race, it is 11 to 11, but since Flesh hasn't actually gotten Magic Garden yet, is pretty far ahead at this point and just needs to get the ending of Magic Garden here. Has already gotten the shinies and setting up a Warp Tank race, which is very exciting. Shock, Soft, and Riot sectors are all pretty hard levels, especially without checkpoints like Slim Tank, and especially because the crabs in Riot sector can be pretty mean. There are a couple of spots that you can like shoot up at the ending stuff to be able to get through. But there was a goal last season to literally just beat Riot and Soft Sector, and that was a very hard goal that people, it wasn't actually like a very hard, but it was a really hard goal that people didn't really go for very often. So being able to do that as well as, in my opinion, equally hard level in Shock Sector. Shock Sector is not the easiest level either, so having to figure out these puzzles, especially with the pressure of it being an 11 to 12 game where if you're Flesh, you need it to close out, and if you're Mora, you need both this and the next space in time to be able to win. So unfortunately for Flesh, does take a death in a bit later into Riot Sector. Like I mentioned, these crabs can be pretty mean, and honestly the eyeballs later in the stage can be pretty mean too. Even when you use the strats to like kind of fire up later into the level, you're still only able to get like rid of one or two of them. So this is setting up to be, with the final 8 minutes of this game, potentially game-ending situation here. And we get the Lazy Cops race, where in the next 7 minutes, if Mora is able to beat these 3 levels with the money crate, which is a goal that we saw in the last game as well, she's able to pick up a 13-12 win. If Flesh is able to get this goal first, obviously he gets the 13-12 win, and if it goes to time, Flesh wins 12-12 because he's already marked this space last. And I think you can now see why we kind of just watched almost all of this game without really fast forwarding very much. Because a bunch of shit happened this game, and it was very important to recap all of it. Punching the block at 4x is pretty miserable, yeah. It's really funny how fast 4x speed makes some things feel, and then you get to like playing Combat Ants and it's still really slow even at 4x speed. Or you get to trying to punch through a purple steel box in Rail Heist and it's still fucking taking forever. So yeah, with 1:43 on the clock, Mora is in the final level and is able to mark it off. Honestly, just an incredible game by both players, because Flesh did a really good job of getting some really nice synergy, working through some longer and harder goals, getting some important snipes, and pushing into that situation. And Mora did a fantastic job of realizing her out in that game and just going straight for it. And once again, shoutouts to the Golf Area Gold Disc, which is definitely one of the swaggiest gold discs we've seen in the league, for sure. Alright, so after an understandable pop-off and quick break. Yeah, I do like the magnetic go board for keeping track of generals, like, for the camera and stuff. Everyone's making me want to have some kind of physical thing to track those with this season. But I play from the couch on a laptop, so I don't have very much room. But anyway, game 2. of Flash versus Mora. Mora was able to pick up a bingo win that started off with a block koala race. So continuing right where they left off last game, both players are just pretty much going head to head and or getting really quick spaces on the board. All of the goals that have been gone for at this point in the game are really fast. So let's just skip ahead a little bit more. Yeah, it does seem pretty helpful, honestly. So continuing the A-tier pace of literally every match that we've been trying to work on so far. It is 2-1 within the first 6 minutes and keeps up that pace. 3-2 in the first 10 minutes. And we do see Mora popping back into Valbrace once again. Obviously got to make the way through floor 1, but floor 1's really fast, so that's fine. Resets at the start of floor 2, since she didn't have any essence anyway, and is going to be going for a pretty powerful center square here. At this point in the match, Mora is pretty aggressively setting up that a bottom to top diagonal bingo, which includes a couple of pretty long goals for this card. Theoretically, Avianos is really fast, but I feel like every time you open it in a bingo match and think it's going to be fast, it takes forever. And then every time you think it's going to take forever and open it in a bingo match, being like, oh god, here we go, you win in like 2 turns. So at this point in the match, up 4-3, Mora is pretty aggressively pushing that diagonal bingo, but starting to work on a completely different bingo line. And meanwhile, Flesh is working his way through Elvazar's hat to have a game where he defeats 2 bosses, and also gets progress for Shooter. Interestingly enough, working on a parallel diagonal here, but unfortunately the 5 diagonal is a little stronger than the 4 diagonal. So actually just going for gifts here, it looks like, and now seeing that Shooter is very powerful for 2 of the bingo lines that Mora's working on. Mora looking to grab the double synergy, at least based on the highlighted spaces, but it's likely just going for the much faster Rakshasa goal, because Rakshasa gold disc is much longer. Yeah, I kind of wish every game that was a little bit slower had the tactics speed up. But at this point in the match, it's 7-3 Mora, and she has 2 or 3 on a line in 1, 2, 3 different spots. And if you're Flesh, you unfortunately have to just kind of take the really long Shooter goal that doesn't really have a lot of synergy with anything else. And if you're Mora, you can basically just afford to either go for all the quick spaces that are on the board, or start to push one of these bingo lines as you start to get a little farther in. And we see that Mora is starting to push a little after a brief pause. Mora starts to push the opposite diagonal line, and at this point Mora was blocked on the bottom row and column 2 bingo, but Flesh is trying to just claim a couple of quick spaces while they're available. And for what it's worth, there are a couple of pretty difficult bingo lines to block still, and this rail heist one is one that can sometimes take a while. Rescue mission, in my opinion, is one of the hardest levels, just because of how much stuff is actually going on, and honestly because even after you figure out what's going on, the second cowboy is kind of just in a really shitty spot, so... It is kind of a checkerboard. But eventually, Mora is able to grab that rail heist square. As mentioned, rescue mission is, in my opinion, the hardest. Like, I know the later game levels are probably technically harder, but like I always messed this level up when I was running rail heist gold disc, just because there's a lot that can go wrong. There's a lot of guys everywhere in this level, and they're also actually in spots where like they can get you pretty easily. So this level does end up having a little bit of difficulty just because of rail heist being rail heist. But thankfully for Mora, with how scattershot she's been with like spaces and diagonals and different bingo lines, Flesh is still at the point where he's trying to catch up with space count and not necessarily block the bingo really at all here. And after a couple more minutes, Mora is able to get the other diagonal bingo and win 9-7. So another good game by both players, and really fun set. Game 1 of this set had a lot of really cool back and forth, and game 2 of this set was a lot of intricate bingo strategy that ended up paying off with a bunch of different bingo lines. Okay. So we're about halfway through the recaps here. Every time I have this set up, it ends up still being like huge. I'm not sure why. I guess this is just what happens when VODs are on Twitch. It's just kind of inconsistent, I guess. Okay. We have 8 more games to go. Y'all, 8 here is intense to recap. There's a lot of cool shit that happens, and also it's just a very busy tier. I don't know how y'all are doing it by playing it, if I'm being honest. Welcome back from the ads. We are on to the second half of A-tier recaps. We still have another 8 games to go, so I'll try to go a little bit faster with these next ones, but spoilers, they're still really good back and forth games, so I won't be able to go much faster. But I'll try. So starting off for Glove and Skousen's back-to-back, it is Glove's birthday on the date that this match is being played, so pretty fittingly, Glove gets a center square seaside drive, as well as a pretty synergistic goal on the bottom goal, setting up a pretty fun head-to-head in seaside. It's always exciting to see these kinds of head-to-heads in bingo, because Seaside's not really a game that you can speed up much outside of the boss fights, so pretty much all of this just comes down to the boss fight and if the player got into the game slightly earlier. Yeah, I'm glad that Glove got his birthday wish and got to play Seaside. And for what it's worth, Skousen was right there with him, and unfortunately for her, she just got very slightly sniped on it. And understandably staying in through the gift, at least. Kind of tough to be in a situation where you know the Glove is likely staying in for the center square, and just going to continue with knowing that you're a little bit behind on it. So understandably pivoting out into Valbrace, Definitely one of Skousen's comfort games and one that she's really good at, which also sets up some pretty nice synergy with Defeat the Crone and level ups for Roleplayer. So as both players are making their way through that, we do Defeat the Crone and then switch into Kit Club. Kit Club is another pretty fast game that also synergizes with gifts pretty well. And Glove is similarly going in a golf area to hit some par bots and potentially get the gift here as well. Yeah, I'm glad that Glove got his birthday center square dream, honestly. That's always a pretty fun one. Also, I forget if I said hi, but hi Dom, how's it going? So, let me... Is this one? Sorry, I didn't actually transfer all of the Discord messages, so I have to manually load them, and I keep forgetting to actually do that. So a little bit farther in as both players are a little bit farther into this match. We do get a head-to-head in Divers for purchasing the Godblood, but you'll notice that Glove got the gift and then reset and is a little bit farther behind now, while Skousen is swimming as quickly as she can to that spot that Toot showed off with the hidden chest right there. Just go past the anemone, grab the hidden money, and make your way back to buy it. And Glove also knows this spot, but unfortunately, since he was a little bit farther behind on the gift race, and I guess actually took a slightly different route to grab a little bit of extra money, it ends up coming down to a head-to-head swim-off where Skousen's just barely able to make it back. Still hasn't actually purchased anything but the Godblood, so hasn't actually made any roleplayer progress, but at least is threatening that pretty aggressively at this point. And next we get even more Warp Tank. Very happy to see so much Warp Tank on cards this week. It gives me hope for my matches. Violet in the chat of this VOD pointing out that may be the first time that anyone has intentionally entered cross sector from Slim Tank, so kudos. Okay, so here we have a little bit of a difficult situation where Skousen is in Rock On Island to try to get one of the squares that's on the board. But unfortunately, I think she misreads the space, because the space she's currently working on says that she needs to perfect Terror Overhead, and right now she is just beating Terror Overhead. And in her defense, there is another space on the board that just says beat the spiral. And if you're in the bingo match, it's sometimes really hard to identify the differences in some of these goals. And I don't say that jokingly, it is genuinely really hard sometimes to make sure that you're doing the specific goal that you're actually aiming for when there's a very slight wording difference that you maybe just overlook. And in this situation, Skousen is able to beat Terror Overhead, but unfortunately doesn't perfect it, so the space gets unmarked as she instead pivots to the spiral, which is the level that actually has the just beat it goal. I think you did, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm 80% sure you did, but that's not very high, I guess. That's fine. Should I start the oven soon for the lasagna too? Okay. So thankfully Skousen is able to grab that rock on goal, and then we see a pivot in the party house to beat Alien Invitation with your popularity maxed out. The goals where you have to win with your popularity maxed out in a specific scenario are surprisingly tricky. Like, I consider myself pretty comfortable with party house, and even then those goals are a little hard, because you have a habit a lot of the time of just buying as many star units as possible. And like, if you have enough for another star unit at the end, there's not really a reason not to buy like an additional star unit to increase your odds. But you can't really do that with this goal, so you end up having to reach your goal much earlier than you would expect to. And even in the default scenario, and perhaps actually because it's the like main default scenario, there's not really a lot of like advanced gaming options that you can do in this, so you kind of end up just having to play like straight up party house here and just have a really strong setup. Meanwhile, Glove is fainting for his life in Vogras. Vogras at any sped up speed is always really funny to watch, because this game is sometimes just a disaster. So unfortunately, Glove does take a death in stage 4 of Vogras, which theoretically allows Skousen a chance to take the lead here in the final 4 turns of the game. But like I mentioned, she does have to max out the popularity while still also getting enough units to win the game. And as this gets later and later, you do have to be maxed out on popularity by the final turn, and unfortunately just doesn't have enough time left. Ends up having to boot Trouble, which ends up kind of clogging the house with extra units and makes it so she's not able to get that goal. So a smart pivot into Block Walla. Most of the bingo lines on this board have been blocked, but there is still the bottom row and this sneaky diagonal that Glove's actually theoretically working on. So Skousen does a good job of identifying that Block Walla is only 4 levels and theoretically can be done pretty quickly. And meanwhile, Glove is going to be in Devolution to try to beat 5 rounds in a run without placing the middle piece. A surprisingly difficult goal. Devolution is already a pretty hard game, but having to have the extra mental energy to not pace whatever the middle piece is can sometimes be pretty hard, because a lot of the times you're kind of just working on autopilot to get the pieces on the board in a way that you can actually win, and not having to do like an extra level of thinking on top of that. So unfortunately, Glove does end up struggling a little bit with this goal, which allows Skousen time to get Block Walla and then also hop in herself. Skousen is very good at the puzzly games of UFO 50 and is definitely very comfortable in Devolution. And Glove is also comfortable in Devolution, but just happens to have a little bit harder of a loadout here, I think. And is in Wave 5 for this match, while Skousen is making her way up to Wave 3. But you can see on Glove's screen that there's a lot of purple guys and they're very spread out, and Glove doesn't have another cannon, and proving to be a bit difficult to actually reach these guys without actually killing everyone. So understandably needs some time to make sure he's planning it out correctly and thinking and stuff. But unfortunately for Glove, having time to think in Devolution when you're in a head-to-head is sometimes pretty scary. And you can see during this time that Skousen is able to push into Wave 4 as Glove is still finishing up Wave 5 to confirm that he's actually killed everything here. And also hasn't placed the middle piece. So checking his work, going over the lines, just making sure that everything's blowing up. As Skousen reaches wave 5, by the way. So a pretty brutal snipe is potentially incoming, but thankfully for Glove, he does push it out just in time. Gets the gift, marks the space. Skousen's probably pretty upset about it since she has been working on the skull for a little bit, but might as well stay in for the Demolition gift at this point, because even if you fail, you still get the gift right now. And, the game is tied 6-6. Skousen has a tiebreaker. Theoretically, if either player doesn't get a space for the rest of the game, but as you can imagine, that isn't the case. But Skousen does quit out in the middle of wave 5, which does mean that she's short on the gift. Not that it matters at this point anyway, because gifts have already been marked. But and we see another attempt at the party house goal. This is one that both players end up actually going into throughout the match at this point. And as we get a little bit farther in, we see a little bit more block wall of progress, as well as Glove working through Mini and Max to collect shinies without a shrink potion. We get to see clears of all the levels in Mortal 1, as Glove ties it up again 7-7. Setting up a Glove return to Valgress. Skousen hopping into Overbold to try to get 1,000 stakes without bombs. Both goals that we've seen players unfortunately have a bit of a hard time in, but both are theoretically fast, which is kind of the trap of both Valgress and Overbold and Bingo, in my opinion, is they are just fast enough and just skill-based enough that you feel like you can do it no matter what. And then the nerves of the bingo match often kick in, and they're sometimes pretty tricky games to actually execute. And both of these tasks are definitely not easy by any means, so playing hard games and then making them even harder on yourself is sometimes a lot to do in the pressure of a bingo match and stuff. Yeah, Alpha Trilogy was always a square last season that I was terrified to go into personally. Even though, like, individually I felt fine getting all of those gold discs or whatever. Doing it in the pressure of a bingo match while, like, also knowing that I, like, needed to do them would have just driven me nuts if I ever went for them. So Skousen setting herself up very nicely with a very heavy gun build to basically just have super spread and super powerful bullets, and setting up for the 1k wave without using bombs. Obviously the easiest way to do this one is to just build up your gun and have enough health and health drops to be able to kind of patrol your way around the field. You don't have the benefit of lure bombs with this setup, obviously, so you do have to be a little bit more careful about where you're positioning yourself. So we get a we stay into an immediate pivot from Skousen. Theoretically, we were going to stay in there for a cherry, but immediately after the Valgress cherry gets marked, I guess Skousen feels like she's behind on cherries, and pops out immediately to go into Lords of Disconia. Hi Vex, how's it going? Good to see you. So, tied 9-9, we get pure RNG goals for both players, where Skousen needs to win a battle on the hardest difficulty of Lords of Disconia, and Glove needs to win in Quibble Race, just in general. And Skousen getting vengeance on a goal they gave her the business earlier. This match is now going to stay in, and perfect terror overhead. Basically just needs to upgrade Zola as much as possible and play safe with pretty wide spread of damage dealers for this. Terror overhead is definitely the hardest, like, full level in bingo that you have to do and do well, and there's a lot that can go wrong. Obviously 3 different paths that you have to defend, and they're all pretty intricate and long without really having a lot of like overlap with each other. And this is definitely one of the first levels in Rock On where your resources start to feel super thin, and like even if you're doing like ideal chicken farming and stuff, it can still sometimes be pretty tricky. And especially if you are trying to do it fast and skip all the chicken farming and stuff, it can be even harder. But yeah, we're doing well, Vax, thanks. Bun just ran downstairs to put the parking permit on the car, and I'm presuming ran into a neighbor as well. And we're just chilling and recapping stuff. We have a bunch of games to get through for bingo stuff, but it's all been really fun, and A-tier stuff is always really fun to recap, so I'm happy to do it. After this match, though, I do need to start the oven, because I'm getting hungry for some lasagna. So tied 10-10, we get to see Glove's attempt at going for the Alien Invitation goal. Honestly, I'm a pretty big fan of the Party House makeover between Season 2 and Season 3, because I feel like anytime you actually saw Party House in Season 2, it's either Best Wishes or VIPs Only, which VIPs Only is fun, but only getting to see Best Wishes was a little underwhelming in my opinion. And here we unfortunately see that Glove buys an extra alien, which puts him at just far enough down here that he doesn't have enough popularity to be able to win. And for those that don't know, you don't gain extra popularity on the final day, so you're stuck with whatever you have going into the final day. So even though Glove is able to pull 4 stars on the previous day, has to kick one out to avoid winning. Also, I don't know why everyone said that the final day didn't count, because it definitely counted up there. I didn't see it. You got buddy time?
Oh, he laid in my lap.
Oh.
In my lap.
We love Buddy the cat in this household.
He purred.
Oh.
He flipped over. I got to rub his belly, and it wasn't a trap.
Yo, there's a new orange and white cat that lives around here named Buddy. And he is Bun's best friend.
He followed me over to the car to double check that the thing was up. It was up. Good thing I went to check.
Yeah, we love Buddy the cat. He's the best.
Buddy. Oh, sweet Buddy. Oh, that cat is everything to me.
Yeah.
And then I got to talk to our other neighbor, who's Porch Kitty's owner.
Oh.
Porch Kitty apparently does not get along with other cats, but he does get along with Buddy.
That's adorable.
I got to see them sniff each other. They do get along.
I mean,
Confirmed.
who doesn't get along with Buddy? He's the best.
Oh my goodness. They're both orange cats, by the way.
Yeah. Very,
Porch Kitty, full orange. Buddy, orange and white.
very orange cat behavior.
I need you to know, I sat down to pet Buddy because I kneeled down and I was a little bit wobbly. I was like, I don't want to fall on him. Oh, by the way, when I was knelt down, he walked underneath me a few times. I was like, I don't want to fall on you. Let me just sit down. And then he just laid down in my lap.
He loves you.
I love him so much. Sounds like kitty.
Yeah, he's the best.
Hi, Vex.
So in the final 10 minutes of this match, it's still tied 10-10. Glove is given another good effort at this party house goal, while Skousen is working her way through terror overhead with chicken farms, and Understandably playing pretty safe here with just max money and upgrades. Once you have a chicken farm going, you definitely are able to fill out these spaces. But as we get into the final turn of this game, again, Glove needs pretty much max popularity on this turn to be able to fulfill the goal. It is going to need to max out and also grab 4 aliens in this final day, and unfortunately doesn't seem to have like a ton of pop generation in this one, so it's going to have to reset, which gives Skousen and like, this is a very interesting race because it's technically a race with 2 completely different goals of games that typically aren't raced in bingo. But we do have an interesting Rock-On versus Party House Scenario 1 race. And with that reset, Glove gave Skousen a pretty significant advantage here heading into the final waves of this. And as we get into the final portions of this, Glove is about halfway through the scenario and definitely has the setup that is needed to be able to max stuff out and win. Just has a bunch of money generation and comedians, which is always very consistent. And meanwhile, Skousen is trying to kill the mammoths and make sure that nothing else squeaks through on the other side. And with about half of the party house day left, Skousen's able to mark off the Rock-On goal and go up 11-10 in the final 5 minutes. Drops an exhaust in chat. And we do get to see a head-to-head in party house, which is also pretty rare and fun. Unfortunately for Skousen, Glove's been in this for a little while now and definitely has the setup that he needs to win, and also has the popularity generation to be able to have the extra days left. So, while Glove is able to mark that off, tie it 11-11, Skousen did grab the 11th point first, and is able to win that match. It's always really fun when it's a match that comes down to tiebreaker, and had that match gone on a little bit longer, both players did have divers progress, but neither really had like level ups from divers, so it would have been an interesting way to see how that game ended. Little cutie. We love kitties. He was just excited to see you. We haven't seen him in a few days, so.
I know! I love that kitty. He's such a little kitten.
Yeah.
He was so tiny compared to Porch Kitty.
I mean, Porch Kitty's a pretty big cat.
He's a giant cat.
Porch Kitty's the only kitty that I call a cat, because he's just large.
He's a large cat, and I didn't really notice how giant he was until I saw him next to Buddy the tiny cat.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh, they were so cute. They were so far away, and they were
Oh, before this match starts, I need to turn the oven on. 1 second.
You didn't turn it on? Can you get me an Uncrustable on your way back, please? I'm getting a little hungry. Well, I don't notice I'm hungry until I'm hungry. It's my problem. I got a problem. Well, I got a few problems, but that's one of them. My other problem? I can't stop watching Furball Farm.
You can give him a shout out.
I just love the cats. Are you doing it or me?
You do it.
Hold on.
Shout outs to that stream that has like 300 plus kitties.
350 plus!
That's a lot of kitties.
I know. And there's so many different cameras and so many different camera angles.
Little cuties. Alright, Glove versus Skousen game 2. Skousen was able to pick up another 13-point majority win, this time 13-8. And right away we see that the center square is one that is definitely pretty time-consuming, and also doesn't really have a lot of synergy on this card at first glance. But something you'll maybe notice from players this season is Alphazar's Hat is kind of one of those games that has sneakily been like really buffed this season to be like actually pretty good depending on what generals roll on your card. And now that the mini bosses count as bosses in Alphazar's Hat, you can actually kind of rack up a lot of bosses in Alphazar's Hat by like just playing the game. And I think if you were to ask most players like what like returning from season 2 to season 3, like one of the games that received the biggest glow up, I think Alphazar's Hat would probably be pretty high up there. Yeah, there's always bosses, so depending on what you roll for the boss portion of the card, it can sometimes be worth it to only play one stage. It can sometimes be worth it to just hang out in there and play a bunch. But it's generally always a pretty good idea to at least know the stage 1 speed run at this point. So
Alphazar always reminds me of that one show, that like Abby show. No. Yes? No. The one with the elves. And the elf land.
Oh.
And then they have to leave the elf land.
The Disenchanted or whatever.
Yeah, that is the Abby show.
I wouldn't have ever known what you were talking about by calling it the Abby show, but
The show that Abby does the voice for. Wait, is it that show? There's 2 different shows, I think. No, it's that one.
What was the other one you're thinking of?
I don't know.
Just...
It has to be that one. I think the other one I'm thinking of is Hilda, which is good.
Hilda is good, but is different.
It's not the same. I confused myself, sorry.
Yeah, Disenchanted's the one in the Simpsons Futurama art style. That was the one Bun was thinking of, I'm 90% sure. I don't think Bun's seen Moral Laurel, but... Moral Laurel is kind of one of those shows that's like really, really, really good, but then you also kind of never want to watch it again after you've seen it, because it's kind of devastating. Like, it's very good and powerful. It's a Starburns production thing, so you know it's like pretty deep for being animation stuff.
Good old Starburns.
Yep. What was the name of that movie that we watched by them? Or by their production?
Give me a clue.
It was the one with like the facial aphasia or whatever.
Oh, for my class.
Yeah.
Anomalisa.
Yes. That's another very good,
That
powerful
movie was crazy, and I would have I literally emailed my professor and thanked her for assigning it, because I was like, that movie was so fucking weird. Like, that was the weirdest movie I've ever watched all the way through, and I would like to thank you for assigning it, because like I would have stopped watching it after probably 15 minutes if it wasn't an assignment, and I cried at the end. Like,
Yeah.
It was so like moving, and the animation form is like the only way that they could have done this the way that they did, and the only way they could have communicated this like emotion and like just the way they could have communicated it,
Yeah.
the way that they did. And just thank you. Like, I had to reach out to her because it was an online class,
Yeah.
and it was uncomfortable. It was true art. True art will make you uncomfortable.
Yeah. So during the intro of this match, Skousen's done a really good job of just grabbing quick spaces while Glove has been working on some synergy. We do see that Glove is both in danger to block this column 1 Bingo, but is also theoretically working on a pretty fast diagonal if he's able to grab Alphazar's hat.
I miss when movies were art and not just like, let's remake this because it'll make money.
I mean, some movies are still art. We just don't see them as much because the theaters are full of other stuff too, I guess. I don't know.
Sorry.
That's okay. So Skousen is able to beat the Camp 1 Stage B boss and go up 4-1 and start to push another square that she's comfortable with. In the post-game, Skousen admits that she was kind of just trying to end this match as quickly as possible because the first match was really tiring, which we saw from the recap of that first match. That was definitely a good back and forth game, but a lot of action. So starting to do the same, Glove is going to play through Campanella 2 to beat either More Woods or Rank 2. And Skousen is still cleaning up some pretty quick goals. Finishing hole 9 in first place in pin golf is incredibly fast if you're comfortable in pin golf.
Now I just want to feel something, man.
Okay. We got 2 recommendations from Project Hail Mary from different people, so apparently movies are art and good, and we just need to watch that potentially. We get to see Skousen pop back into Valbrace again, as I mentioned earlier, one of her comfort games, and good progress with Valbrace Floor 1 and also Role Player. And after a little bit of attempts at Magic Garden, Glove just decides to chill with Alphazar's hat for Stage 4 and also bosses. Glove's only behind by 2 at this point, so theoretically he can get bosses and Stage 4 and come back into this game pretty quickly. There is also the additional synergy for Skousen to find the Zweihander, which he does pretty quickly, and marks off that space. Debates staying in for more role player progress, but realizes that it's probably better to just get the other quick spaces that are on the card, and starts to work on those generals while Glove is in Alphazar's hat for a while. And while Glove is able to grab bosses on the way to Stage 4, Skousen is just able to grab the other many quick spaces that are on this board, activating all the switches in Mortal 1, making some progress in Porgy to collect 4 fuel tanks. Definitely just a board that happens to have a lot of very quick goals, like even the very hards on this one are either long and consistent or really fast and kind of inconsistent. And if you're able to play Magic Garden and score grind, even 50k is like sometimes pretty manageable. Again, doing it with bingo pressure with a match on the line is a different story, but something that theoretically can be pretty fast. We do get a little bit of a head-to-head Magic Garden at the 42-minute mark. For what it's worth, Glove has already at this point cleared Alphazar's hat Stage 4, but his main way into this game down 4 is to hope that Skousen's going to start going for longer goals, and that he can bait Skousen into going for Alphazar's hat, even though he's already marked off, or even though he's already completed it, to try to get a pretty big snipe of a goal that he's already done, while also making other progress to get back into the game. But unfortunately for Glove, Skousen just keeps going for all the quick goals. Magic Garden is good to go for that. 50 lives in Mortal is pretty fast still too. And then finishing up with a Tactics, which is theoretically pretty fast. Thank you, Vex and Hugh. And after a little bit more of a Tactics, Skousen picks up a 13-8 win. And yeah, very good game from both players. Quicker game too, as both players kind of just wanted to blast through it as much as possible at that point, but very back and forth, and especially in game 1. Okay. Before we start to recap the final 6 games, I'm not going to take like a full-on break, but I am going to mute really quick, put dinner in the oven, and have a dab and stuff. So I'm going to put up the set. Alright. We're back. Thanks for hanging out, everyone. So we have 6 more games to get through. Spooty versus Hugo hasn't happened yet, so we'll recap that one whenever it does. I guess I should have probably ran an ad during that time. Whoops, that's okay. I didn't realize we were so close to another one, or I would have. Alright, so Keeney versus Cosmoing is another game of the week contender, in my opinion. Definitely had a good back and forth in both of these games. Did I update the board? No. Okay. So game 1, Cosmoing was able to pick up a 13-11 win. Getting into it, Keeney immediately goes for the rare triple synergy of Overbold. The 1,000 stakes without using bombs goal returns, but seeing as how Keeney just bought bomb upgrades, it's less likely that they're going for that this round. And Cosmoing meanwhile going for one of the quickest goals in bingo for Bean Drip, before setting up a nice head-to-head in Bushido Ball. A surprisingly important early space for both players here to either advance the bingo line or stop one from forming in the first place. So worth mentioning during that initial setup that I didn't even mention, Cosmoing changed his settings at one point to be hyperspeed, where both the player and computer and ball like all move like a lot faster, and actually made up a pretty significant amount of time on Keeney because of the extra speed increase, but also because of the speed like changing of the settings. Keeney was able to kind of maintain that lead like just enough to be able to win. And then immediately we head directly into win the hiding minigame twice race, which Keeney is thankfully able to win for them. Just happened to get some pretty good rolls of the killer like minigame RNG for both players, but Keeney was able to take advantage of a little bit of a head start to be able to win there. And then pretty interesting warp tank synergy here, where we get the warp tank very hard into Puzzler and like right next to each other in a line, and also that line now happens to block Keeney's main bingo threat that they're working on, and we're actually starting to work on here. Cosmoing and playing a pretty useful bingo strategy of like starting to make progress on that goal, and then quitting out to save progress, since Warp Tank is a game that saves progress after every level. You can kind of work on Warp Tank goals like throughout the game. You don't have to do them like all in one sitting or whatever. And spotting the triple synergy with Overbold, definitely worthwhile to at least give it a couple of attempts and see how Overbold's treating you for that day. And meanwhile, Keeney is doing a great job of just grabbing quick spaces to go up 4-1, and going to use this time to work through Night Manor and obtain the diamond, while Cosmoing is attempting to get the triple synergy and Overbold still. Friendly reminder to anyone who's unsure, but Overbold is, in my opinion, one of the hardest bingo games, because not only is it just kind of a hard game in general, but you're also kind of constantly betting against yourself and in favor of yourself, I guess. And in the middle of a bingo match, that can sometimes be kind of hard to pull off, especially if you think you're in a race or anything. Given that Keeney has marked off a bunch of other spaces, Cosmoing likely feels pretty safe here that he's not in a race. But you also don't necessarily know, especially in A tier, how aggressively players are holding and delaying stuff. But Keeney basically just using their advantage to keep advantage, finishes the Night Manor goal, and then basically gets through one race of the Big Bell race. So theoretically, if Cosmoing had switched out of Overbold before then, could have set up a Big Bell race where Keeney was actually one race ahead of where Cosmoing thinks they might be. But now going to basically be able to use that advantage to kind of carry it forward even a little bit further, knowing that Cosmoing likely didn't even start potentially a Big Bell race until after that space gets marked. And at this point in the match, every bingo except a column 5 bingo. Yo, Vex, thank you for the gift sub to Hugh. Hugh, enjoy the emotes. Good night, Vex. Thanks for hanging out.
Good night, Vex.
Also, Hugh, enjoy the no ads, because that's honestly probably the best part of being a sub at this point. Like, I like to think I have pretty good emotes, but I think everyone can agree that the best part of being a sub is just not having to deal with ads for a goddamn second. Well, thank you. Honestly, any amount of match recaps help. I told myself before stream today that I was going to try to get better about doing match recaps while I'm just like chilling and watching matches anyway. And like, I think if we could just do that more, it won't feel as much like catch-up-y if we have to watch these back like later. So I'm going to try to at least do a little bit better about that by like just having Discord open, I guess, while I'm chilling and watching games live. Whenever I actually get the time to watch games live now. So up 7-4. Every bingo line has been blocked for Cosmoing. So he's basically forced to try to block all of Keeney's lines while also sniping Keeney like twice or 3 times to get back into the game. Outside of the triple warp tank synergy and block koala very hard synergy, there's not like a ton of extra synergy on the board. And the warp tank knowledge that is required for like optimal synergy on this board is pretty far into the game, so hey Nitro, thanks. How's it going? Good to see you. Oh yeah, also, I forget if I mentioned it, but all of the Week 1 and Week 2 recaps should be up on my main YouTube soon. I have to re-upload last week's C-tier recap to my regular YouTube because it accidentally got uploaded to my VOD channel instead. But everything else should be on YouTube now. So spotting the triple synergy here, Keeney finally pops into Warp Tank on their own to theoretically beat up to 9 sectors and then also just beat the Slim Tank required sectors along the way. And pretty rare head-to-head Warp Tank race. As a Warp Tank fan, I think this is the first time we've gotten to see like an extended Warp Tank race this season, and it is pretty fun that it is coming from Tier A. Keeney now using the level select code to get the second half of the goal, while also starting to make progress towards 9 sectors still. Unfortunately, the warp tank very hard doesn't have like great synergy with slim tank levels, because you actually need to beat 9 sectors to be able to speak to 3 NPCs anyway. So trying to synergize warp tank with the like beat levels goal isn't super worth it unless you happen to get one that's like on your route anyway. But with 9 levels unlocked, you unlock the 2 parts of the overworld that allow you to get to NPCs 2 and 3. Talking to the crane and talking to the guy over by the other sectors. And with that marked off, Cosmoing starts to get back into the game a little bit, and has already shown pretty significant progress towards Puzzler. So both players pivot, and Cosmoing tries to finish out Puzzler with some quick levels of Demolition, while Keeney uses the time to collect collectibles in Camouflage and a couple of honestly pretty long levels to try to collect everything in. At least 7, 11, and 14. This level 2 is actually pretty long, honestly, so unfortunately for Keeney, of the levels in the Camouflage Cherry run, I think they maybe pulled the 4 longest ones here. But we do get to see an extended Camouflage play while Cosmo Wing is working through Demolition to finish up Puzzler. So a couple minutes later, Cosmoing is able to finish up Puzzler and then immediately goes into Camouflage for his own stuff. Both players technically holding a little bit here with Cosmoing, or I guess Cosmoing doesn't actually have Puzzler yet, but Keeney's hold there allows them just a little bit of extra time to try to pop in to grab the Overworld square that Cosmoing didn't claim on his last run. And meanwhile, Cosmoing will pop into Campanella to beat 8 levels on games on this card. And bosses as well, it looks like. So, with Cosmoing marking off the next space, is only down by 1 now, and theoretically could come back with the extra progress that he definitely already has over Keeney and Puzzler. Both players are without a gold disc at this point, so, or without a cherry, excuse me, at this point. So if this does end up coming into a late game tie, it could end up being a late game cherry blitz with neither player actually having progress towards it at all before then. But Overbold is a little difficult to Keeney, which forces them to pivot out, and Cosmoing and Keeney get to show us a head-to-head block koala, which is always really fun. Both players just trying to work through both Worm 1, 2, 3, 4 and some quick levels to finish out Puzzler, and then also directly try to race it. We get to see the head-to-head in Worm 1, 2, 3, 4 for just a minute before Keeney decides to pivot to Ants Ants. But you can see this late game scenario where Cosmoing banked a ton of progress in general goals while keeping the score close, while Keeney was more focused on just getting the quick goals on the card, but not necessarily as like synergy focused. Ended up allowing Cosmoing to come back in this one and put Keeney in a situation where they now have to snipe Cosmoing on 3 goals, including the cherries that neither player has like progress in right now. And Keeney is able to do ants, and then we do get another head-to-head in Block Koala, where both players actually have some pretty significant progress. And the levels rolled for this one definitely trip up both players for a little bit. But it ended up actually being a surprisingly close race that Cosmoving was just barely able to eke out. And in 1 hour, 11 minutes, and 11 seconds, Cosmoving was able to pick out a majority win. Alright, game 2, it was Keeney's turn to pick up a majority win here, so we'll just go ahead and fast forward to that now. So starting off, both players pick 2 incredibly quick goals, but different ones. Having 2 upgrades in Campanella 2 is literally just getting to the end of Burrow's 1 side-scroller, getting the coin thing, and then getting 1 extra power-up, and clearing floor 1 in Valbrace is a pretty quick area, and also a pretty quick gift if you kill the crone along the way. And meanwhile, Keeney flying around Camp 2 to try to find a door and just get an extra power-up. But unfortunately can't afford any of the ones in the first shop of Camp 2 since it's taken a little bit of extra time, not really too much, but in A tier any amount of extra time is worth mentioning with how fast these games go, I guess. So Cosmoving working on another very quick center square this time with Cyberowls defeat 2 bosses. And Warp Tank, another quick goal with beating sectors, defeating all enemies possible in each. Sometimes can be a bit of a time-consuming goal, depending on what levels you pick, but as long as you know what counts, like this level for instance is pretty quick. The one that Keeney was just in before that isn't necessarily the fastest, but still definitely possible, but we get to see another A tier clear of spiders from 2, or the reward from 2 spider quests. Keeney, another runner of Mini and Max, definitely very comfortable in this goal. So Keeney, having just seen that Cyberowls got marked off, is at least going to give themselves enough time to get into the next game before marking off this space. Grimstone, have 3 skills learned at once, is a pretty quick goal, but unfortunately doesn't help with the diagonal bingo that Keeney literally just blocked, so... So during the time of Cosmoving, learning 3 skills, sorry, during that time Keeney was able to pick up a couple of other quick squares before starting to make progress of their own in Grimstone. This time specifically working on the very hard while also potentially trying to synergize it. This looks like a party that theoretically can learn enough skills to be able to do that, but you typically don't level up a party of 4 for 3 skills learned at once. So, worth mentioning, by the way, this is 19 minutes into the match and it's already a 5-2 score where Keeney has effectively blocked every bingo line. I think actually the exact 5 spaces that Keeney was able to grab this match like perfectly block every bingo. So at this point in the match, Cosmoving is just trying to block Keeney's bingos as efficiently as possible and also start to make progress on generals to hopefully have a similar situation to game 1 where They were behind a little early, but were able to kind of cash in on good general synergy later. So, although Cosmowing's doing a good job of getting goals to get back into this game and blocking as many bingos as he can, Keeney has just done an equally good job of staying ahead and getting other quick uncontested spaces. Given how head-to-head this game was, like, on the bingo board itself, it's kind of surprising that there weren't really that many, like, actual head-to-head moments in this one. But we do get an interesting moment. Is it right here? Yeah. So at this point in the match, Cosmowing's down 8-5, and I remember the commentary was a little confused at this point in the game as to what goal Cosmowing was going for, because all of the other Grimstone goals had been marked at this point, and Grimstone is not a game you ever go into for bosses or anything. Later in the game, Cosmowing revealed that he just kind of was going for a goal that apparently was already claimed. So this little part is a little bit of extra time for Keeney to get ahead and kind of push their advantage a little bit more. We do get to see Keeney playing Rail Heist, which is always really fun. I think Day Job now being able to have 9 levels of Rail Heist basically just means that we get to see a lot of Rail Heist anytime it appears in a Keeney game, which is pretty fun. Because even not at 4x speed, those levels flew by. And then here, I want to point this out. Cosmowing is in Kick Club, while Keeney has just hopped into Pilot Quest. Planted some seeds, got an ingot, and is just gonna kind of YOLO it out in the wild zone to try to scout and see what they need. In the first dungeon, gets a dungeon that they can actually cheese here. We are gonna watch all of this YouTube, yes. Takes the hidden shortcut in this dungeon, beats up the flower boss, on 1 meat, by the way. This boss is easy to dodge, but also with this pressure it is also pretty easy to choke on this. Bikini does not, grabs the ship part, flies back. All of this being on their first time opening Pilot Quest this match, by the way. And is able to return the ship part, a deserved flex. And during this time, Cosmowing's been working through Kit Club, which, with the defeat the goalie and then the an Ice World goal and defeat 2 bosses and gifts, is a pretty good potential like quadruple play and also a gold disc. But as we get a little bit farther into I think, given how funny this was, we're actually going to slow this down to 1x and listen to the commentary for this one, and I'll just let the commentary speak for itself, I think. So keeping in mind, Cosmowing at this point would need kind of a pretty sick like quadruple mark to get back into the game. Is playing through this to get a gold disc, but also needs to beat the World 3 boss correctly here. Let me turn this up for now.
Yes! Very nice, Keeney. Not that I expected anything less, of course. I just know, like, even for the top tier players, that's a very, very tricky strat to get.
Cosmo is going for the weave between the Corona stones. And then one more would be the gift, just for fun. Party.
Okay, honestly, Keeney going for Party House here is very smart. 2 on the card, and Cosmo notoriously does not like Party House. So if Keeney just stays for these 2 goals, I think that's pretty solid.
Okay, so coming up on the World 3 boss here, by the way, for those that don't know Kick Club.
It's been a hot minute since Cosmo marked
the goalie is an optional, like, secondary boss here that has a lot more HP.
Yeah.
The net is the only guy you need to kill to be able to move on. But the goal says you gotta kill the goalie first.
Did Cosmo forget about the goal?
Asked and answered.
Oh no.
Someone in chat, if you haven't already clipped that, please do. Oh no.
Cosmo, I love you, man.
Anyway, we can go back to the 4x speed now, I think, but I wanted to just actually show off that moment because, in my opinion, one of the funniest moments this season. We've had a lot of good funny moments, but I was losing it, especially with Slam's laugh after that. I do agree that killing the goalie is a kind of really obnoxious goal because it's very far into Kick Club and there's nothing you can do about it if you mess it up. And also, quite honestly, the net has just a kind of bad habit of wanting to kill itself. Oops. But it is top tier comedy, so. But anyway, as you might imagine, down 11-6 and unfortunately not able to get the Kick Club goal. Cosmoing does get a gold disc out of it. And we do get a little bit of a head-to-head in Party House before Keeney marks it off. Cosmoing in on the other Party House goal, as Keeney is just trying to figure out what goals they want to mark to clean up the game. And we do, before this wraps up, end up getting a pretty close, honestly, head-to-head in Seaside Drive. If Cosmoing were to snipe this goal, it's good synergy for defeat 3 bosses. There's also the added benefit of potentially staying in for the UFO and getting just back into the game, where Keeney would then have to either race gold discs, not having any, or I guess I should say, play through to Kick Club and try to get the goal that Cosmoing theoretically should have had but kind of forgot about. So with this Seaside race, Cosmoing did enter a couple of seconds earlier, and you can see just with the side-by-side, it's pretty much like one wave of enemies for Keeney after Cosmoing. So both players are trying to play as efficiently as possible here to get as many points as they can, making sure that they get to play the bonus games as well. Unfortunately, that ends up not working out for Keeney, so they end up having to skip the bonus game here. Cosmoing marks off mid-match that he defeats the UFO because he is slightly ahead, and is also slightly ahead in points, but did take a death and unfortunately isn't able to get the bonus game. Keeney actually messes the bonus game up very slightly early, knowing that Cosmoing is in a direct head-to-head in Seaside at that exact spot. but is just able to clean it up with the extra points from the bonus game and win 13-10. So 2 really great games, and honestly some really great moments in both those. Very, very fun matches, you two. Okay, next up we have the back-to-back with Dupe versus Val. In game 1, Val was able to pick up the 8-2 bingo win. So just going and getting into this one, we do have an immediate Campanella 3 Stage A boss race for the center square, which is about one of the fastest and or most consistent center squares that you could possibly ask for. Honestly, at this point in bingo, I think this goal's been around for a while, and I think in like season 1 or season 2 this was probably one of the fastest ones, but I have seen other 2-minute goals this season already, so it was like, oh, it's another 2-minute goal, I guess. But and we do see both players stick around for the gift. Dupe quits out after that to try his luck in Planet Zoldath. Zoldath, generally a pretty hit or miss game in bingo. Like, either you get like a god seed and are able to get this overworld piece like right away, or the overworld piece is in like a really annoying spot. And this one, Dupe was able to just run through the snail and get that piece right away. And Val is going to start to push the middle column bingo while Dupe sits in for a Rakshasa Gold Disc attempt. Dupe has already shown a couple of times this season to be pretty comfortable in Rakshasa and definitely aims to go for it early. Has good synergy with bosses and sometimes levels depending on which one you pull. So definitely a good game to be strong at in bingo now for sure. But during this time, Val will also be kind of just working on the quick top goals in the top row. Getting good progress on beating levels and also gold discs. Is it gold or cherries? Is it an extra? It's cherries, never mind. So Dupe is able to grab with 54k the Rakshasa Cherry disc, which is very rad, not something you see very often in bingo at all, and sets up a head-to-head in Ninpec, which is one of the scariest games to be in a head-to-head in. But both Val and Dupe would have theoretically benefited a lot from that space. And Dupe staying in to get a little bit of extra progress and potentially bosses, while Val is starting to make progress on Rail Heist and getting extra synergy for beat 8 levels. Dupe, seeing the bingo threat forming, is going to hop into Quibble Race and try to have 25k. Unfortunately loses the bet that would have won him the 25k and is stuck in a little bit of Quibble Hell currently. Quibble Race has been both really exciting to watch and also a little mean to players sometimes. So now up 6-2, Val's pushed forward pretty far into Rail Heist to get extra progress, and has also started to push a middle row bingo, which pretty much baits Dupe perfectly into going for Party House, even though Val's not the biggest fan of Party House and probably wouldn't be going for that bingo. Also is threatening wild bets, and decides to fuck it, we ball, and try some wild bets of his own. And then with the massive underdog odds, G Fury falls and faints. Black Eye dies, and then out of nowhere, Val is able to just instantly grab the 25k. The head-to-head was honestly pretty close there, but Val pushed that bingo line pretty aggressively and was able to pick up a pretty impressive and fast-forming bingo line there. But also massive shout-outs to Dupe's Rakshasa Cherry, because that was also sick. Alright, game 2. We are able to see that Val picked up a 13-5 majority win in this one, so getting into this one because this one has a little bit more to talk about. We get an early head-to-head bean drip race, which is definitely a really fast center square. We saw Cosmoing take out this square in a different spot of the board pretty quick just a couple games ago, and Val is doing an equally good job here of clearing all of this out. For those that are wondering, the score in bean drip is actually half of the value of it in the normal game, because in the normal game all of these diamonds are worth 200, but in the bonus game they're only worth 100, or in the terminal code for the bonus game. So we see some pretty good synergy with Kit Club here as well, beating Track World and scoring 25k. And Dupe again pushing for a pretty hard cherry right off the bat, is going to go for a square that honestly a lot of players fear, but Dupe is definitely showing no fear in a lot of these games, which is always really fun to see, and going for a Velgress without upgrades or star pads. After a couple attempts in Velgress, we see the Dupe switches over to Waldorf, just trying to get a space to block stuff on this board from quickly spiraling and pushing a bunch of bingos and stuff. Val doing a good job of just going for a couple of different quick spaces to put pressure on, while also just getting spaces that synergize with the generals. So once again, Dupe showing no fear on a hard cherry attempt and jumping into the overbold cherry, which actually is like perfect positioning to block a lot of the bingo threats that Val started to form in this game, because it would block the diagonal and it would also block the row 4 that he's currently working on now. Definitely a good job by Dupe identifying the like high value spaces that sometimes scare players out of like maybe going for the square, because it is hard, but it's definitely in like a pretty prime position right now. So it definitely makes sense to go for. And meanwhile, Val is going through and just trying to get points as each of the different power-ups before getting to play Ants. Val is a very known ants lover and is able to show it off here. And unfortunately for Dupe, this is definitely a difficult situation to be in, where Val's done a good job of forcing bingo lines that are all on like really hard goals that you need to block it with. And sometimes it can be a little overwhelming trying to just like settle into the game and find a goal that gets you back into it at all. But doing a good job of identifying that Magic Garden is definitely one of those quick games that can be knocked out and get you back into it quickly. So at this point, Val is up 6-1 and is gonna just start working on trying to form some of these bingo lines and ending them in like kind of maybe annoying spaces that he doesn't want to do, and just force Dupe to keep going for these really hard goals. During this time, we do get to see Dupe trying his hand again at the Velgress Cherry, which is already on the line that is being blocked, but it's still helpful, and especially if you know that you can do it, it's worth going for because it is a pretty quick goal. So Val staying in, obviously, in Mooncat for the gold disc, since that's starting to push the column 5 bingo. For trying his hand again at Rakshasa. And I mean, at this point, if you're Dupe, you're definitely just trying to get spaces on the board, and kind of like if you get bingoed on, you get bingoed on, but you just gotta do what you can to get back into the game and all. But kudos to killing Sharkus on the way up without any upgrades, because that's definitely pretty hard to do. Shoutouts to Val for the block wall art. And at this point in the game, Dupe is gonna pop into Onion Delivery to try to show 12 deliveries on the counter, and Val is just gonna kind of keep pushing his advantage to either play Block Walla or just go for whatever bingo lines he feels like going for at this point. Obviously, with the column 2, middle row, 4th row, and far column all being threatened, Dupe is in a position where he kind of just has to like have spaces that attempt to block stuff, and the Onion Delivery space at least does block the row 4 threat. Nope. I said row 4 and then Karma somehow flipped the board, and that confused me. Not even sure how she did that, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, the thing about Velgress is like you kind of can feel, at least after a couple of attempts, if it's gonna happen for you or not that day. And theoretically speaking, like even a upgradeless cherry disc of Velgress is still like a sub 5-minute goal, and I think 5 minutes is even kind of assuming that you spend most of your time on the final part of the boss fight and stuff. And definitely one that's worth going for, in my opinion. There are a couple of other ones that I personally have practiced that I'm comfortable with, but there's also a couple that have been introduced that I have like no experience with at this point. So now up 10-3, Val can kind of just play through Campanella 1 to make some Camp Trilogy progress, and is threatening the Open Tomb bingo line. Interestingly enough, that goal was actually incredibly fast and would have been a pretty quick bingo line for Val to go for. But I think at this point, probably just feeling like he wants to play some bingo and play through Campanella 1, which is definitely understandable. Zanya's done, one sec. Mental game and filling yourself out on the day is such a major part of Bingo League. Yeah, it's pretty surprising, honestly. And even in my third season, it's still something I need to remind myself is like a game-to-game thing and not just even like a season-to-season thing. Because, like, at least personally speaking, there are definitely some days where I feel pretty on it and capable of doing whatever. And then there are some days where I'm like, alright, this game's just not working for me today. And being able to evaluate that mid-match is pretty important. So as Val starts to just make more and more progress, the Campanella 1 gold disc lets him get a double mark on Campanella Trilogy and gold discs, and then just grab whatever other space he wants. Dupe is eventually able to grab the block koala space and then start to block one of the other bingo lines, but at this point would need every space on the board before Val grabs another one. And as you can tell by the end board, Val is able to defeat Raizo. Dupe is able to kill 6 enemy spawners in time, but otherwise Val did a good job of just kind of pushing a really quick early advantage and going from there. Alrighty. And final set of A tier. So what are we at in terms of time? 2 hours? Almost 3 hours? I guess that's fine. This is the reason why we're splitting up by tier, by the way, for anyone wondering, because there's a lot of game action to cover. Alright, so starting off with the final two-part set of A tier for week 3. Matt versus Red Robot, game 1. Matt was able to pick up a pretty quick diagonal bingo win here, as both players are, at this point in the match, a whole minute in, just kind of trying to grab quick spaces. Matt getting good synergy with the potential row 4 line, should that start to form, and Red Robot just getting 2 very fast spaces off the board before Matt has a chance to even look at them, honestly. But worth mentioning that both players are also picking up some pretty quick gifts along the way. 7 gifts from games on this card as a center square is a pretty interesting one, because a lot of bingo goals also overlap either directly or indirectly with picking up gifts. So it definitely rewards player knowledge for being able to like weave in a little bit of extra stuff to help you get that center square quickly too. And I've personally been a proponent that the center square isn't like quite as powerful as it was, at least in season 1 and 2. But it's still definitely a square that can enable 4 different bingos is very helpful. Especially if it's one that you can get while doing other stuff on the card too. So 2-2, Matt starts to work on that diagonal line. I'm already having a couple of gifts, and I guess seeing how quick it actually is. Also, that party house goal is, I think, the easy, where you don't even have to like win the scenario, you just have to have the star guests in your house. So definitely a really quick goal, even by like if you're not super thrilled with party house RNG standards. And now tied 3-3. Red Robot is gonna hop into the Demolition Square, which will both block Matt's bottom row and also start to push a column 5 bingo and a diagonal potentially. Both players still definitely at the point in the game where they're eyeing that center square for different diagonal lines. So tied 4-4, 14 minutes into the match, which is absolutely ridiculous. Red Robot starts to synergize the Camp 2 Score 20k and Campanella Trilogy. Both players have a world of... Oh no, sorry, I thought both players had a world of Camp 3 progress. I guess I could have been mistaken on that. But Red Robot seeing the synergy of just scoring 20k and also getting a little bit of Camp 1 Trilogy progress along the way. And Matt, meanwhile, going to start to pretty aggressively push this diagonal bingo. Have 5 extra lives at once, a 7 gift rush, and 2 levels in Rail Heist is not a lot to ask for a full bingo line, so... You see the 5th life at 50k in Kit Club if you don't die. And an immediate push of Lazy Cops. One of the nice things about forming diagonal bingos also is sometimes diagonal bingos as they're forming can be a little harder to spot than like a straight line of something forming. Especially when you have a diagonal forming like this where you have like both corners and then like one of the middle ones. Like just visually when you're playing and quickly looking at the board, it doesn't look as threatening as it actually is. But this little bit of extra time as Red Robot is working his way to 20k allows Matt to get like about a half a level ahead in Rail Heist. Yeah, pretty much a full level, actually, I guess. And while Red Robot does eventually see the diagonal and make some pretty quick progress through one of the levels, Matt is able to... Not sure why this is running so smooth, stuttery now. Yeah, and I mean, one quick way to avoid diagonal blindness is just to grab that center square, but in matches where the center square isn't grabbed until like later in the game, it can be pretty devastating at times. So at this point in the match, Matt is down in gifts 4-2. But it does have a couple of quick ones and Block Koala and Rakshasa that he's able to pick up. Red Robot attempting to grab a quick gift in Quibble Race from having a sponsored Quibble win, and just unfortunately gets a little Quibble raced along the way and has to restart once or twice. And with the race being as tight as it is, and eventually tied up, and Matt's able to go up 5-4, and then eventually 6-4 with the Star Wasper gift that Red Robot already has. Both players are kind of just rushing as quick as possible to try to block this center square, or use the center square to end the bingo line. And Matt is able to save Mortal 2, activate a switch, which is definitely a pretty fast square. Not necessarily the fastest though. Let me slow this one down so you can see exactly how close this is. But both players are tied 6-6 gifts at this point. And Matt is on his way down to the final, as Red Robot is trying to just kind of casually fly to the 50% mark. Has to stop here, which is the 43% mark, and then unfortunately for Red Robot just barely gets sniped by like one launch, and gets bingoed on in the first 28 minutes of the match. So definitely a really close game. That was like 7% in Waldorf away from being a kind of different game. Because at that point, if Red Robot is able to claim that center square, is now pushing his own diagonal bingo, where it comes down to either a Planet Zoldath race or a Hotfoot gold disc using characters that aren't typically used for gold disking stuff. And it could have been a pretty different game, but shoutouts to Matt for squeezing out that gift in time, because that was very close. Alright, the final game of A tier week 3. Look at us go. Red Robot was able to win this one 13-7. Once again, another very quick center square. More Rail Heist. I feel like Rail Heist was everywhere in A tier this week, and a lot of quick goals for it. And meanwhile, Red Robot is going to push Bug Hunter for completing a job and completing a job with your energy maxed out. So basically just doing one goal and getting 2 spaces of credit out of it. Even if you're not super comfortable with Bug Hunter, that's a pretty good value. But unfortunately, Red Robot ended a turn next to a couple of energy cubes, and during the supply drop in between turns, an energy cube dropped, and when there's 3 energy cubes on a tile, they instantly blow up everything around you. So Red Robot unfortunately not able to cash in on that double synergy early. And meanwhile, Matt's been steadily working through the first 5 levels of Rail Heist and is almost done with that at this point. Red Robot trying to get good double Planet Zoldath synergy, which is pretty rare, but collecting 4 energy cubes in a run and the overworld map piece. Red Robot does see that he just needs bombs and or energy cubes at this point, and is able to mark off not 1 but I believe 2 squares here. Meanwhile, Matt sees the nice Bug Hunter synergy and gives his own attempt at it. Those are big neck pops, Bob. Those were big necked pops.
Yeah, you did.
So we get a pretty cool head-to-head bug hunter where both players are just trying to max out their energy and also get all the kills they need. Unfortunately, if you kill an egg, it doesn't actually count as a kill, so this ends up actually being pretty close. Red Robot only a couple of days behind and then ending up having to reset for Matt, which gives Red Robot the lead. And looking to be fairly comfortable, even though both of these bug setups that the players have had aren't really super ideal. And Red Robot, making sure he doesn't win the game before collecting all of the energy cubes, is able to just barely squeeze that out. And then Matt actually has the exact same death where he ends up next to an energy cube and gets triple cubed also, so so at this point in the game, Red Robot's up 3-1 and already starting to threaten some pretty scary bingo lines. Matt, finding the intersection of that, is going to stick in hot foot to get 3 blowouts, and then starts to push his own diagonal. Gonna try his hand at Planet Zoldath, even though the other energy cube's goal was already met, and just see if the overworld piece is obtainable at this point. So during the time that Matt is spending in Zoldath, Red Robot's up 5-2 now, and is gonna get a pretty important space with this Fanger multi-mod. Both blocks Matt's main diagonal bingo threat and also starts to push those own bingos. Red Robot using a strategy where he makes like a little bit of progress in it and then pivots out into Zoldath to just see if he can get lucky with an overworld map piece this time. And pretty rare head-to-head Planet Zoldath race, especially in A tier. I feel like you never really get to see Zoldath head-to-heads in bingo really at all, but especially with how gamble averse A tier can be at times, it is pretty cool to see that there was at least like a little bit of a head-to-head there. And now up 6-2, Matt's in a pretty precarious spot. His main bingo line is blocked, and he still can take advantage of the center square with either a vertical or a horizontal bingo. And seeing that Matt's going to rush the Mooncat Gold Disc here is at least at the point where he can kind of start to push for the middle row bingo. But kind of like we've seen from other games in A tier, once A tier players get a lead, they're definitely very efficient at keeping the lead and grabbing quick spaces that still also give them generals progress and stuff. And that can definitely be pretty hard to do, but definitely pretty efficient at it. We get to see a little bit of Red Robot using Mini and Max glitch known as cave extensions. For those that don't know, in Mini and Max you can go to the end of a cave when you're super shrunk down, and at the end of the cave is a big shiny worth 50. And interesting thing about that is if you were to theoretically, like we keep seeing with Red Robot here, zip out of this room and into the room that's like off to the right of this, which you shouldn't really be able to reach, every room after a big shiny will also spawn a big shiny. So you can use this to theoretically get all 350 shinies in like back-to-back. And unfortunately for Red Robot does die slightly early, but like 40 shinies on the overworld is definitely pretty different to deal with. And with Matt's Hot Foot progress and the Mooncat Gold Disc is at least able to bring it back 8-4. And at this point start to push for stuff. But Red Robot's still just doing a really good job of identifying the spaces on the board that help out with generals. Clearing Moscow with 1200 score and just being able to keep pushing all of that advantage. And Matt's doing a good job of starting to claw back into it, now only down 5-8, and theoretically you can get pretty fast Quibble race goal here. Quibble's definitely once again showing up in every single game this season. So interestingly, we got a little bit of a Mortal 1 race, which was like only for Revolutionary, and I guess potentially 50 lives, but felt like it was mostly for Revolutionary. Before Matt switches out and starts to go for other gold discs, and might as well at this point work towards that. Oh, I'm sorry, this is just the Formula one. This isn't a gold disc. So now up 10-6, we get to see Rock On specifically for its rare double synergy, where it actually is double synergy. I mentioned earlier in this recap that a lot of the Rock On goals, unless you have Revolutionary on the board, are kind of agnostic of each other. Where, like, yeah, you can like highlight multiple spaces of Rock On, but most of the time it's just like beat this level and also beat this level. But with Revolutionary on the board, there actually is like rare extra reason to play through a Rock On level and also get progress towards it. So Red Robot able to get a little bit of extra progress towards Revolutionary with that, and clean up with another level in Cyber Owls, basically whenever he wants to at this point. At this point in the game, Matt will need more or less every space on the board, especially since he now has seen multiple games that got marked off for Revolutionary progress by Red Robot. So basically just trying to work on the longest goals and also the general goals that he still has synergy on. Again, neither player has cherries at this point, and this is not looking like a great board for cherries. So definitely don't want to end up in an end game scenario where you have to get everything that's left on the board if you're Matt. And we do see a little bit of a head-to-head advantage here, but astute viewers may see that Red Robot is like way far ahead here, and barring like 4 or 5 game overs is probably fine here. And Matt does get the new skip where if you pause on a perfect frame, you're able to despawn a bunch of stuff and actually see where you're going. But now up 12-7, Red Robot just needs a little bit more Revolutionary progress to clean up the game, and that's what we end up seeing. So once again, another really good back and forth. I really like that A tier is doing so much like split game action this season, and it's been pretty cool to see. In fact, let's actually look at the standings for A tier before we wrap up for tonight. Okay, cool. Google Docs tried to dox me, but I'm zoomed in enough that it didn't actually show. Good. Anyway, Looking at the standings now that we're about halfway through the season, Keeney's in first with a 5-3 record, and then we have a pretty big logjam of 4-win teams with Slam, Val, Hugo, Mora, and Matt. And 7th and 8th place currently, we have Spooty and Skousen, and everyone who is pretty close behind is still definitely within striking distance, especially because A tier is playing 2 games a season, so definitely cool to see that everyone is so close together there. And honestly, even though Dupe is 0-6, he's still definitely been playing well and getting some really hard goals and stuff, so as he starts to get more and more comfortable with Bingo, it wouldn't surprise me if his record starts to match it a bit more. And looking at the stats, halfway through week 4, A tier has completed a whopping 41% of the goals this season. And if we look at specifically how A tier's been doing within their own goals, Rail Heist, The Tactics, Rakshasa, Magic Garden, and Night Manor are their top games. And yeah, definitely very fun to watch progress for A tier. And even though it's been a little tough to recap 2 games back to back for each of them, I can only imagine it's even harder to actually play these games. So major shout outs to A tier for a very fun season so far. Okay, I'm gonna snooze this ad because I think we are actually good to go here. And I think we have at least finished this recap at about the 3-hour mark, which is pretty good. I've been trying to aim for about 3 hours per recap session, and it's a little bit easier on the recaps that actually have a lot of YouTube recaps available, because I can watch those at 4x instead of 2x. But I see our good friend Winterbit is finally starting the Warp Tank Dark Cherry, so I want to go ahead and raid over there. So we will. Have a good night, y'all. I will be having my week 4 match against Toots tomorrow. I forget if Matt or Ace are going to be streaming that, so stay tuned to the Discord for that. Friday night, it looks like we're going to try to record a 2v2 spicy, potentially submission for Games Done Quick. And Saturday, I should be free mostly during the day, but then I have a match against Liz at night to make up for my match last week. And then Sunday we should be kind of chilling, so we'll try to squeeze in the B tier and C tier recaps probably on the weekend, most likely. And I'll try to get some Pokemon and stuff in, because I definitely want to make sure I'm mixing in some non-UFO 50 stuff too. But thank you everyone for hanging out. Another fun recap, another fun day of bingo action. Let's go hang out with Winter for a little bit. I'm tired, so I'm going to end now. Night, y'all. Bye-bye.